Business Systems Mastery in London, and today we have an amazing guest speaker with us, Jadey Li. He's an international speaker and property millionaire, and he's just absolutely inspirational and so motivational, and it's absolutely great to have him here. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me.
So, John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where do I start? I started working amongst Chinese takeaway as a dishwasher. I went through the whole usual, go to school, get a job. I got a job as an animator, right? So
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was always one of these like little geeks that always wanted to, like you'd watch a film. The first film I ever watched was Toy Story, and I watched it and I thought, wow, I need to be an animator. And my parents worked really, really hard. They flew over from Hong Kong, just so they could make a living, so I could go to school and go to university and go to college and get a job and to make someone else rich. So that's kind of my background, and I love games, so I love to work in a games industry called EA Games. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
So they make the football games and all those sort of stuff. So that's really my background.
So in terms of animation then, what's your favorite cartoon?
Oh, that's a tough one. My most favorite classic is Aladdin.
Really?
I love Aladdin. Yeah.
So a Disney fanatic.
I'm Disney all over. Well, you see, here's the thing. My goal was to go and work at Pixar, right? And I actually got trained by one of the guys at Pixar to teach me how to do animation. So that kind of, I've always been into Disney, and I'll always love, because one thing I love about Disney is this, their way of doing things. They had this code of conduct of, for example, all the characters and how do we bring them to life. And that was a very good book. It's called The Illusion of Life. And that's how do we bring life into something that is not alive. And so I love the whole philosophy around that, and I love the commitment to making art amazing. For example, Snow White, they would have a teacher, a cloth expert. If you look at Snow White, the way she runs, she'll have her dress moving around. So for hours and hours and hours, all the animators would be there with this cloth going back and forward, waving this cloth, and they would have to draw it every second. Their commitment to just that one thing. Not only is the storytelling, but the commitment to the art is what I admire the most.
So how did you get from being an animator and working in a takeaway, washing dishes, to becoming who you are today and getting into property?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I read a book, it's called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and in the book it talks about, this concept of passive income. And I thought, well, what was passive income? And the analogy is that you can make money, you can create something that makes money over and over and over again. And you don't really have to work for it. Like once you set it up once, it happens over and over again. I thought, well, that's interesting because, that sounds too good to be true. So then I started doing some research, and I would go online and type in how to make money from real estate, property, and all these seminars came up. So I would go to one of these seminars, I was sitting in a seminar, listen to the speaker talk about how you can invest in property, and they would say things, you can buy houses and make all this money. In my mind, it was like, well, that sounds too good to be true. Right? And so I'd go home and talk to my friends about it. My friends would say, yeah, it sounds like a scam. Right? Because you always can get people like that.
Yeah.
But one thing I realized was that if you want to learn something, you want to achieve something, you got to find someone who's already achieved that goal. If I want a great body, I'll find a bodybuilder or someone who's fit or an athlete. If I want to become very wealthy, I find someone who's very wealthy. So I started going to all these seminars, and I didn't have any money to attend these seminars, and of course there was an investment to attend these seminars. And of course my friends would say to me, don't go to that seminar because they're trying to scam you. But what I realized was that they didn't know what they didn't know, right? And I'm going to listen to people who know what they're saying and know what they're doing, and learn from people who've been there and done that. So my motto is now, before you can earn, you must first learn. So I started going on these seminars, buying lots of books, programs, DVD sets, audio sets. Even till today, I still listen to self-development. I still listen to audio programs. I still, when I'm at the gym, when I'm running, I still listen to these, motivation. Because, I still need motivation as well. So I started going on these programs, courses, and then I got a mentor. And that's how it really all started. I had this mentor, and guess what? Mentor charged me £10,000 for 2 days worth of coaching. Right? Do you think I had the money? No. So what did I have to do? I sold my car. And how do you think my partner at the time reacted there? I'm selling my car to go on a course, pay £10,000 for 2 days. She went berserk. And this is when I started to realize that the people around you actually influence what you will do and what you won't do, and actually give you a destiny of where you're going to be, because they influence the way you think. I have this concept called red lighters, and we talked about this today, where red lighters are people who are trying to stop you from doing things, and green lighters are people who are going to push you forward to do things. Right? And through life, you always find people like boom, and try and stop you all the time. But these are the people that you want to stay away from. Right? You want to hang around people, and around this mastermind. That's how I started. I was hanging around myself. I was learning, because it's a combination of things. Like most people, they go out, they try and get education, they do it, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Why? Because they don't have the support.
So would you say that sort of within your life, you should surround yourself with green lighters and not red lighters?
Yeah.
But then you have this dilemma of, what if you have some friends, you've known them for years and years and years,
Yeah.
you've known them since you were like this tall, and they're red lighters. So what do you do then?
It's a hard decision. It's really hard because, see, I honestly believe there's two things in life. You want to be successful, you either have results or you have a story. And you've got to choose. I'm going to tell you this, I've been in business many years, and have I always done well? No, but I'm doing very well. And one thing I realized, that you have to sacrifice something to get to where you want to get to. I don't care who you are, whether you're Branson, whether you're a Steve Jobs. They have sacrificed something to get to where they are.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It could be family time. In fact, Steve Jobs' autobiography, he didn't really get time to spend much time with his family.
Yeah.
And actually, when he wrote the book, he said, look, when this book's finished, give it to my kids, because they'll understand why Daddy never spent time with them, because he was too busy changing the world. Right? So it is a tough decision. It is a very tough decision. But you got to do what's right. You got to do what's right for you, because if it was the other way around, would it be different? Probably not. If someone offered you an opportunity to do something that you knew was going to be something great, would you do it? Of course they would. If it meant them changing a lot of lives, being better than where they are now, and it meant them, becoming very wealthy, I'm sure if the tables were turned, the decision wouldn't be so hard. And here's the thing about delayed gratification. We stay around our friends because we want to be a part of something, right? And the moment we break from that, we feel alone. And I want to tell you, business is a very lonely business. Right, when you're in business, right? Yeah. It's just like you're so focused on doing your work that everything else becomes obsolete, And that's what we call getting into the zone. A friend of mine, Jay Johnson, she's an Olympic athlete.
Oh, wow.
Right, she's an Olympic athlete. She competes in the Olympics. Yeah. And when I was talking to her, she said, John, all the Olympians are all they strive for the rest of their life is heading for the best, being the best, getting that gold medal, right? And her personal best, was like 650 something. And she said, Jen, do you know the difference between gold, silver, and bronze? 4 millimeters.
Wow.
Right? Because she was a long jumper, right?
Yeah.
And gold players got this amount. Silver got was 4 millimeters below, and third place. Listen to this. Bronze was the same jump as the second one. So and she would train for years and years and years and years and years, only to achieve an extra 2 or 3 centimeters on top of her personal best. And you look at the mindset, and I said to her, look, is it a pretty lonely business? And she said, well, sometimes it can be, because you're so focused on training, and people around you, they don't really get what you're doing. Only you understand what you're doing. So to answer your question in a long roundabout way, you got to do what's right. You got to make that decision and make that decision right.
So you talked about sort of sacrifices. So what sacrifices have you had to make personally to sort of get you to where you are today? Okay, so my first sacrifice to how I got here was when I was the decision to stay at home and not go to university. So I want to stay with my friends. My friends didn't really, get an opportunity to go to university. So I said, look, if going to university means leaving everything behind, right? And I was 18 at the time. So do I stay at home and feel comfortable and happy, or do I break from that and then, do something myself? That's the first choice I had to make, was to leave home. So it had to be far enough away that I couldn't go back all the time, but it had to be close enough that when I needed it to go back, they would be there. Yeah. Right? So that's the first sacrifice. When I was at university, one thing I learned was that everything in life is about people. When you're good with people, when you treat people right, when you treat people how you want to be treated, you get far in life. And I was an animator, but the thing is, it's kind of like the film industry. If you want to get into the film industry, it's a catch-22. You have to have film experience. So how do you have film experience without being in the film industry, right? So this whole concept of getting to where I want to get to, I always think about what's my highest leverage. So when I was there, I bought this 3D magazine
It cost me like for a student, it was expensive, it's £4.50 for this magazine, right? I was like, my student loan, so I'm looking through this magazine, and then I see an event. It's called the 3D Festival in Copenhagen, right? So I called them up, I said, how much are the tickets? The ticket's like €1,000,
Wow.
right? Just for a ticket, because all the industry experts go there, and to get a flight over there would cost me like £200-300, and get a train down to London, that's another £60. So I'm weighing up all the costs, and I look at my bank account, and the amount I had in my bank account, if I was to do this, meant I would have like literally £50 left for the whole semester.
Yeah.
The decision was, do I do it or do I not do it? So I speak to all my friends, oh no, don't waste your money. There's no point in going there, it's a waste of time, right? But I made the decision, right? So the first time I went there, right, I made the decision, I flew there, and I was watching all these great speakers speak. And at the end of the presentation, I walk up to them, I introduced myself, right? So I did this for the first year. I went back and I was completely broke. I mean, I know what it's like to be broke, eating beans, like bread every day, saving half of your beans so you can like eat. And seriously, I mean, I've been there, right? I mean, I was so broke. And so my friend said to me, I told you nothing would come from it, right? So next year, what happens? And for the whole year, I didn't go out, didn't go clubbing. And when my friends wanted to go out and go clubbing, I would be at home working on my stuff, because A, I couldn't afford to go out, and B, I wanted to focus on something. Second year came, 3D Festival number 2. I went there, I met the same speakers again. This time I asked them a question. I said, by the way, I'm about to break for summer, do you have any jobs available? And no, we don't have any jobs, but we may have some internships. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the band Gorillaz. You've heard of the Gorillaz,
Yes.
right? So Gorillaz was, the whole music videos was created by a company called Passion Pictures. I met this gentleman by the name of Chris Knott. So if Chris Knott's watching this interview, I want to thank you, right? He gave me the opportunity, and he said, why don't you come along and come do an internship? I said, what's an internship? Well, basically, you're going to be doing odd jobs. I said, that's fine. So like what? So you'll be buying coffee, tea, and all that sort of stuff. And so during the day, that's what I would be doing. But at night time, when everyone left, I didn't have to do that. I would sit there and I'd watch all these animators animate. Wow, this guy's amazing. And I would ask questions like, how do you do that? How do you do that? So eventually, after a couple of days of bugging people just to get them off my case, they would load up a computer with a character on there and say, hey, go and animate that, right, just to shut me up, right? So I got to animate one of the lead. I'm talking about the Gorillaz, the main character. I'm like, wow, I'm animating this character from the music videos, right? So I'm animating this character and I'm getting feedback on it. And so during that time, I bring my own work in, and then someone sees my work and go, wow, that's really good stuff, right? And so I actually didn't end up getting the job there, but I got a great reference.
Yeah.
And that's what landed my first job before I left university. And here's the rule when you leave university: is you're not allowed to get a job before you graduate. I was the first guy in that university to get a job before we even graduated, because I made that decision. That's a sacrifice I made, right? And that's kind of bled into everything that I've done, like into business. Another sacrifice is, do I want security or do I want freedom, right? And so my mum, again, works all her life just so I can go to university, get a job. She worked really hard. I'm seeing them slaving away at the walks, just watching them work so hard. One time you go and you see your parents and just like really tired,
Yeah.
And so for me, it was kind of like getting this whole thing and giving them a choice. That was always about choice. And so another sacrifice I made, I said, look, I'm going to sacrifice my security of a job. I'm getting paid every single month for it to be uncertain. And that uncertainty is what's going to drive me forward. So I sacrificed my security, right? Another thing as well in business, sometimes you make a lot of money, sometimes you lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're great business partners, sometimes you're really bad business partners. So I sacrificed individuality for, I'm talking about there's millions and millions of pounds worth of property.
Yeah.
Right? Because the thing is, I didn't like the way I was doing business. I didn't like the way I was being controlled. I didn't like the way that the business was being run. We had two different agendas.
Yeah.
So for me, I wanted to break away from that, and that was a multi-million-pound property portfolio that I literally just handed him on a plate, right? And that was a big decision for me because, at the time I didn't know what I was doing. I was signing a contract, right? I mean, in my head I knew what I was doing, but in reality I didn't really know what I was doing. Right? And when I kind of handed that over, that was like £5.2 million worth of property.
Yeah.
I was producing money every single month, and I worked really, really hard to kind of get there. So I sacrificed that whole wealth thing, because in my mind I go, oh my God, if I do this, I've got to start again. The one thing I learned was this: that you can take away my cars, you can take away my houses, my money, but within a year I'll be a multimillionaire again. And within 2 years I was.
So why did you go down the route of property and not keep on pursuing your dream as an animator? I mean, you could have set up a company and maybe it became, you know, Pixar for all we knew.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. Well, another thing I sacrificed, my dream was always to work in a feature film. Feature film. Right, and I wanted my name to be in the credits. When you watch in the cinema, you see the credits come up. That's I wanted my name to be there. So on the day I made this decision of getting into property, I still remember this day. I fought so hard for that position, working weekends, late nights, everything. And Edwina was the person in charge of recruiting people for that. So she pulled me aside, said, "Hey John, there's some great news for you. I'm going to put you on this project, on this feature." I thought, wow. On the same day, listen to this, I get another offer from another company for 60,000. I was on £36,000 with this company. I get another on the same day, a £60,000 job, plus my dream role of what I wanted, or property.
It's a tough choice.
It's a tough choice. And I remember my partner at the time, her name was Becky, and I called her and I said, "Look, what do I do? You know, do I please my parents and take this position? Do I fight for what I've always fighted for, or do I pursue a new career for the greater good?" And she said to me, she asked me this question, I'll never forget this. She said, "Babe," we should call it babe, that's true. She said, "Babe, if you did this for a whole year and you failed, do you think you're good enough to get a job in the industry?" And I said, "Well, yeah." They said, "What's the problem then?" Right, so I tried it for a year, in my mind thinking, I'll try it for a couple of months, I'll fail, and then at least I got a backup job, a £60,000 job, right? But the funny thing happened, in the first 3 months I bought 3 houses, right? And I made my year's salary in 3 months. I thought, man, that's incredible. I thought, wow, that's like, there's no other vehicle that you can buy that can go up in value, that produces money every single month. And I looked at the Sunday Times Rich List, I was doing study on all the wealthiest people in the world. Guess what? The wealthiest people in the world, they all have some wealth in property, right? So that's why I started pursuing property, because property doubles in value over time. Right? And it makes sense for someone to, like, you buy something that you can touch, you can feel, that it's a tangible asset, you can touch it. And I can force the appreciation. I can turn a 3-bedroom into a 4-bedroom, and it instantly becomes worth more. Right? And also property is always something that I always know. You buy a property and then you leave it, and it makes you money every single month. And that's what I love about property.
So in terms of property, so you started your own property company,
yes,
and you started building up this portfolio.
Yeah.
So what made you want to go then and travel the world and become a speaker and run these amazing courses that you have on?
Well, one of the things that I always was passionate about was I was always fascinated with why people do things. Like, why is it some people are very successful, why people are not successful? And it comes down to the way you think. It's very simple. So, part of why I do this is really to inspire my people around me, right? So there's 2 things that happen. When you're in the environment, either the environment gets you or you get the environment. And I wanted to be the latter. I wanted me to be the person to influence people around me, because I knew that what I had to share can really change people's lives. People say it's really hard to make money. It's not. It's embarrassingly easy to make money. Right? It's easy. Well, it's simple, but it's not easy. Let me get that right. It's simple, but it's not easy. But you just got to know what to do step by step. And so for me, to me, it became natural. You asked me to start a company and for it to turn over $1 million in its first year. To me, I do that day in, day out. Right? For average people, they think, well, that's not possible. But they're not average people. They're just like me. I'm not the cleverest guy in the world. I'm not the most intelligent guy in the world. But what I know is I know how to follow a strategy. So the reason why I want to do this is I'm so sick of people complaining about their jobs, complaining about they never have enough money, but I had the solution. And what I believed was that if I have an answer to your problem and I don't give it to you, I'm being selfish.
That's a very interesting theory.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I'm being selfish.
But then, in terms of like the speaker community, and this stands for all speakers and all events, you always get sort of like negative feedbacks, and you always get, people that will be saying bits and pieces about everything. So how do you deal with that on like a daily basis, and how do you keep yourself so positive and motivated all the time?
Thank you for that amazing question. Here's the thing about, I call it the Justin Bieber effect. Right?
Interesting.
You either love Justin Bieber,
yes,
or you hate Justin Bieber.
Yes.
Right? You can never ever please everybody. There'll always be 20% of people out who hate you. Right? And when you get successful, and you'll find this, that when you get successful, people watching this, that the more successful you become, the more haters you get.
Yes.
Right? And I want to share a quote with you. Let me find this quote. And you know, you asked me what kind of keeps me going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's this. I want to read this quote to you. Rumors are carried by haters, spreaded by fools, and accepted by idiots.
And
Right?
who's the quote by?
I don't know who the quote's by. I just found it online, but it always stuck with me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's kind of like, well, you're right, because I want to help people who want to be helped. I don't want to help people who don't want to be helped. In fact, I'm not even interested in people who don't want to be helped. You know, sometimes I take clients on and I work with big organizations to consult with their business, to to bring it from this million to this million.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes I've got to fire my clients because they bring me in to help them, right? But they're not taking my advice. So what are you paying me for? You're wasting my time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's the same with people around you. Like, my time is very scarce. I value my time a lot because every second that goes by, you cannot get back forever.
Yeah.
Right? So I will choose who to spend my time with. I will only spend time, like with you, you know, you're an amazing, inspirational person. I love the work you're doing. So therefore, I want to spend time with you.
Thank you.
Right? You know, I want to spend time with people. I give my time, my energy to people who I think deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And these are the people that are givers. These are people who are, you know, they're very optimistic. These people who are what we call do whatever it takes people. These are green lighters. I'm not interested in the red lighters. I'm not interested in the naysayers, because at the end of the day, the reason why people say bad things about people is because your success reminds them of their weakness.
Okay.
And that's why they do it. And I understand that. I understand human psychology. But, you know, as my teacher said to me, my mentor, my business partner, Vincent, he said, look, tigers are not concerned of the opinion of sheep. Right? And that really stuck with me. So now I don't care what people think. I do what I do. If they love it, fine. If they're influenced by these bad media, because, you know, everyone gets, Richard Branson, you know, Steve Jobs, they all get bad media. There's someone writing a book on Richard Branson and how bad he is. Right? I'm serious. I mean, come on. So, and here's the thing. If people are not saying bad things about you, you're not big enough.
So I should find people to say bad things about me.
Well, you're always going to get it. You know, there's always that 20% of people, those naysayers, as they say. Yeah.
So in terms of sort of like what inspires you, what motivates you, what wakes you up what wakes you up in the mornings, what keeps you up at night, what would that be?
Oh, wow. You know, I always love the ability to be able to take an idea and turn that idea into something. But to have that idea make a big impact in the world. And I remember reading this from Steve Jobs' book, and he said the reason why he does what he does is because he wanted to make a dent in the universe. Steve Jobs was the only guy who literally contradicted the entire marketing market. In marketing, they say, if I know what people want, create it for them and give it to them. Steve Jobs was, let me create it and make them want it. Right? How do people know what they want if they don't even know it? True?
Yeah.
And that's always stuck with me. So the thing that inspires me the most is, you know, like, people always think about money, you know, money, it's those great things. It's not about money. It's about making a difference. It's about adding value. It's about creating something that lasts forever. Because eventually, you know, you don't actually need that much money to have a good lifestyle, right? And once you've got the money, you know, and you don't have to work anymore, all your friends are still working, so you get bored. So what you got to do? You got to have a message and share that message with other people around the world. Something that's going to make an impact. So the thing that inspires me the most is that it's going to take an idea to transfer my knowledge from me to somebody else and see them achieve the same path that I've done. That, to me, when people send me emails like, my God, I've just done my first deal. My God, I've just done Forex trade. My God, I've just spoke on stage with this many people. Hairs on my neck, they stand up. Because to me, that means that I've successfully done it. To die with your knowledge, in my opinion, is a failure. Why? Because all the experiences we go through in life, all these things that make us who we are, for that to die with us, it's a shame. So why don't we take that? Why don't we get it to as many people as possible around the world so they can train the next generation? That's what gets me up in every single morning, every day. When I'm very tired, I fly all around the world, I speak to thousands of people. That is my message. My message is that if you want to, you can.
So what age were you when you made your first million?
27.
Wow, that's a very young age.
I started when I was 21.
So what was your first major buy? Like, what was the first luxury that you went out and just decided, hey, I've made it, I'm going to spend my money on?
Well, a big chunk of it, I invested a lot back into it for my family. You know, so I wanted my parents never to work again. My brother just had his 30th, and normally I give him a card with money in it. And this time I gave him a card with no money in it, right? It had an envelope with a piece of paper in there saying, you've just received this. And I've never seen that expression on his face before. you know, just to be able to have that money to be able to give. You know, like when my parents, every single year, you know, we go on, you know, our parents work very, very hard. Very, 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 very hard. And, you know, sometimes they don't appreciate what I do, but sometimes they really, you know, like Chinese parents, they like when you're doing bad, they penalize you for it.
Yes.
When you do very good, they don't say anything. It's kind of like this, I call it the nod of acknowledgement.
Yes.
It's kind of like, yeah. And, you know, every year, I take my parents on holiday. You know, we fly in first class, 5-star hotels, everything. Take the whole family. I remember, I'll never forget this. My mum, for the first time in first class, right? She sat there in a cabin, you know, close to the little cabin, and you know, because in first class you get, you know, 3 windows, right? And she's kind of like staring at the window like this. And I just look over to her, and I look at her, right? And I don't know what happened at that point, but she turns around and she looks at me, and she just gives me this smile. And it's like, wow. You know, that for me was the biggest thing for me, because in that moment, I knew my parents were proud of me. Yeah, I knew that they appreciated the work that I did, right? So you look at the biggest buy, you're not looking at houses and Ferraris and that kind of stuff. It's that ability to give. When you can give with heart, that is the biggest achievement that you'll ever achieve, right? And that's what happened. You know, my biggest buy was to give back to my family. All those years my parents worked in that Chinese takeaway, they don't have to worry about retirement ever again. You know, I bought houses for my family. I mean, they don't know this, right? But you know, I just said to them, I said, look, whenever you want to stop working, whenever you want to, you know, do anything you want to do, you let me know, right? I've taken care of them, you know? That's the biggest gift, is that gift of wealth. And now, you know, being in this business a long time and helping my parents kind of understand this whole wealth thing, I'm getting them into wealth creation. Yeah. You know, my parents, you know, are considering forex trading. My brother's considering property, and it's like, and this is the whole thing. And so this whole, like, you drop this pebble into a pond, and then you start getting these ripple effects, and it's rippling out to all our family. And the funny thing is, you know, meeting you and meeting Eric and meeting all these great people, this sort of ripple has rippled into, you know, this close circle that we have that has brought, you know, I guess the family, if you will, together. You know, and that's the beauty of it. You know, when you can do that, when you can make a change, and we all make a change together, that's the best thing in the world.
So if you had one parting message for all those people out there who want to be inspired, motivated, and take action, what would it be? I
would say, whatever decision you make, right? It doesn't matter what if it's the right or the wrong decision, just make that decision right. Right? Just make it right. You want to be a good father? This is never a good time to have kids, right? Just make it right. You want to get into business? It's never a good time. Just start now, right? Because the last thing you want to do is you want to get to your deathbed and look back and say, oh my God, I wish I would have done that, right? Is to live a life of fulfillment, is to achieve and to get the things that you've always wanted to do. But the question people should ask themselves is, what would you be willing to do for 10 years? 10 years, and to not get paid a dime doing it? If you can answer that question, you'll be very successful. Don't do things on what other people want. Do the things that you want to do, right? Don't listen to anyone else. Even if it's your mum, your husband, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever it is, you do what you want to do, right? And when you do it, you're going to hit some challenges. And when you hit some challenges, just know that's part of the job, right? In fact, the moment when most people are going to give up is the moment they're just about to succeed.
3 feet from goal.
3 feet from goal, right? You know the story. Right? And that's always been the case. So I'll always say that never, ever, ever, ever give up. I mean, seriously, if you're in business and you want to be successful, there's going to be times, there's going to be challenges, right? But just know that it ain't going to be easy. It's not a get rich quick, right? But for me, I would rather work really hard for 10 years and take the rest of my life off, rather than work hard until I'm 65, 75 years old. You know, I don't want to be in that position, right? I want to do something. I want to fight for my freedom. I want to have choice. I want to be able to wake up in the morning, look at my alarm and say, hey, I don't fancy going to work today. Hey, I'm going to work today. Rather than saying, oh my God, put it on to snooze for 5 minutes. That's what I want. I want a choice. I want to be able to walk into a shop and not have to look at price tags. You know, so my message to people is you got to find a burning desire, the reason why you want to do this, right? Because motivation only lasts so long. Passion will drive you forever.
Well, thank you very much, John. It was lovely having you. This is Jadey and John at Business Systems Mastery in London, July 2014. Thank you.